Hi, I'm Sydney, and today I'm going to be talking about Haunters, the Art of the Scare. This 2017 documentary was directed by John Schnitzer and is currently streaming on Netflix. Haunters follows the Mikami Manor, Nightmare on Loganberry, Blackout, and professional scare actor Cher, and we get to see the effort and sacrifice that goes into building these haunts. But the more compelling question of this film that we're left with is, are there limits that should be placed on haunted houses and what they can do to their patrons? So let's look at the Mikami Manor, which is really the focal point of this documentary. Founded by Russ Mikami, this haunted house has been running for over 20 years now. Started on his home property, but then since then has kind of moved. This haunt is also currently open year-round due to its high demand. So basically you apply to a waiting list which currently sits at 24,000 people. You are pre-screened to make sure that you have no pre-existing health or mental conditions that could interfere with your experience, and then you're also interviewed through Skype. Each person's haunt experience of their walkthrough is a little bit different, but here is the general idea.
Out of here, girl! What's that? Walk! Oh!
It is freaking horrendous. It is horrible. Russ says at one point, when they throw up, you pick it up and shove it in their face and put it back in her mouth. Sounds gross, right? But it makes for some killer footage. They'll do anything from cutting people's hair to simulating drowning.
Simulated drowning experience, this is where you're going to come
to locking them in coffins and body slamming people to the ground, like tightening saran wrap over their faces. And even when people say stop, they're done, they want to leave, they really don't let them go. This experience can last anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. Online, Russ claims that there is a safety word people can use, but in the documentary, he says otherwise, and also the video footage of people going through the haunt very much says otherwise.
I told you I was going to have you for lunch, didn't I?
Many, like all participants hit their threshold pretty much, and they say they want out and they don't let them out. When you see people passing out and really hitting this breaking point, it just seems kind of like a pleasurable game for the actors at that point, and like they're enjoying watching these people suffer. It's really frustrating to watch, and it kind of just feels like icky, wrong watching. To not have a safe word is very psychologically damaging to these people. But here's the other thing, is some people come through the end and they totally loved it. And even though they seem to have been suffering, they are totally enthralled, and they even want to maybe help out with their haunts in the future. Who am I to say that it's wrong if other people are loving it and it's their choice to participate in it, right? This documentary theorizes why haunts have gotten to such an extreme level. The Universal Studios horror classics like Dracula, Frankenstein, Invisible Man, they all kind of stemmed out of the era of the Depression, because for a lot of people going to these films was a really big sort of escapism for them. And they were able to go to these movies and escape from the actual troubles that they were having in their life. After 9/11 happened, Not Scary Farm wondered if people would even come, or if it was really even appropriate to be having it, but it actually turned out to be one of their most popular years. There was a really big cultural shift after 9/11 in America, obviously, and all of a sudden there was this access online to videos of torture and like decapitation and these really awful attacks that were happening on people. And these haunts were almost like a therapy for some people, because when they walk out they feel like they overcame something, whereas in real life there are so many things that they can't overcome. But something that really stuck out to me in the film was when I believe Russ said a patron said, "What's scarier, this or my 401k?" Oh God. So in the grand scheme of things, are these haunts really that damaging? My opinion is Yeah. One argument was kind of brought up in the film saying, well, art isn't made so that everyone will like it. But what if the art was forcibly painted on the body of someone who didn't want it? I think it's a really weak argument on their part, and there's a huge difference between creating a subject and then using someone as a subject unwillingly. And while yes, they did sign a waiver, it's technically not even legal, and they gave consent to participate, taking away someone's right to walk away or say no seems to be crossing a line. So that is the overarching question of this whole film, kind of, is what is that line? In the Hunt Blackout, there's an actual naked man who chases you, and at one point they simulate rape, which Russ from the Mikami, God, why is that so hard to say? Which Russ from the Mikami Manor, he thinks is totally wrong, but in Blackout there is a safety word. But on the other hand, Cher, super legendary scare actor, says regarding the Mikami Manor that it's abuse even if they say it's not. She would personally never put someone in a position where they couldn't get away, because she said that's part of the fun of it too, is that there's this kind of conversation happening where you scare them and they go away, and it's just this interaction that kind of organically happens. If anything, Cher is the one who, she willingly decided that this was going to be her profession and to put herself in this position to scare people. She is the one who's taken the dire consequences for that on her body. She has been punched in the face, she's been choked by 3 guys, but the most detrimental was when she was tackled to the ground and it left her with a permanent back injury, which took her out of full-time scaring. I have a lot of respect for Cher because you can see very clearly that she has a major passion for what she's doing, but she's not doing it at anyone's expense. People are scared, sometimes really scared, but then they laugh and they move on with their life, If anything, I would argue that she sacrificed herself for other people's enjoyment as opposed to the opposite. And it's not that I think Russ and the people working at his haunt are bad people. Russ works at a VA and he's a part-time wedding singer, and in total he's put about, he says, $500,000 into creating his haunt. And with all the hype with this wait list that he has for his haunt, he doesn't even charge money for people to come and participate. All he asks is that people donate 4 things of dog food for this charity that he's involved in. He also makes the point that in their haunt they don't cuss and they don't have any sexual related themes like they do in Blackout. So what is the issue? The issue here is the idea of consent, especially when we are at this era of the Me Too movement. Society as a whole is starting to become more aware of the idea of consent. Even though Russ claims that his haunt doesn't have any themes of sexuality, I do believe that a person should always have the right to their autonomy, especially when they're at a place that is intended for amusement. So maybe the issue here isn't whether or not these haunts are good or they're bad or what's right or what's wrong. I think the concern is that a dialogue needs to be started between patrons and vendors about consent. And you know what? They weren't even 100% clear on this. Do these patrons know that there is no turning back and they cannot say no? Because that doesn't seem clear at all in this documentary. But that dialogue of consent needs to be prioritized. Let me know your thoughts. Would you ever go into a haunt like this? Or even better, if you have, please tell me what your experience was. Or leave in the comments, what is the scariest haunt or not scary farm universal thing that you've ever been in? There is no way in hell I would ever go into one of these haunted houses. When I was even working at Not Scary Farm, when I was doing Elvira's show, it took a lot for me, on the very last day, to go into a few of their walkthroughs, so I got a limit. Haunters, The Art of the Scare is currently on Netflix, and it is really well done. I highly recommend you go check it out. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed this video, or you don't have to, because you always have a choice.